Okay, so this is our video over measurement and the vocabulary words and guided notes. The vocabulary words we're going to be discussing are microscope, beaker, graduated cylinder, triple beam balance, thermometer, and spring scale. Our first word is microscope, which is an instrument that uses a lens to make tiny things look larger. So you look through the top of it, you kind of adjust some knobs, you turn some dials, it brings it into focus so you can see better, and it lets you see very, very, very small things. And there's an example of a microscope that you might see in a school classroom, like a high school classroom. Our next word is beaker. It is a cylinder-shaped glass container used to mix or heat liquids. Now notice that the beaker is kind of short and wide, and this is what makes it different than a graduated cylinder. So a beaker is usually shorter and wider. So it's shaped like a cylinder and you use it to store liquids. And this is an example of a beaker. Notice it has the different markings on the side to measure in milliliters, and you have to kind of look at the lines on the side to figure out how many milliliters you have. Our next word is graduated cylinder, and this is also a container used to measure the volume of a liquid. So graduated cylinders are taller and skinnier. They're thinner. And we use these to measure the volume of liquid. And remember that volume is a measurement of how much space something takes up. So we're going to use this to measure how much space the liquid takes up. And here's some examples of different graduated cylinders. You can have really skinny ones, you can have taller, wider ones, but notice that all of these are much, much skinnier than the beakers and also taller. It also has the markings on the side to figure out how many milliliters you have. Our next word is triple beam balance. It is a tool used to measure mass that features 3 beams with sliding masses. So there will be 3 kind of bars, and you move around these sliders until you get the bar to balance in the middle. And then you read the numbers on each of the sliders, and it tells you what the mass of that object is. And remember, the mass is a measurement of how much matter something contains. And so here's an example of a triple beam balance. As you can see, it has the 3 bars, the sliders are all the way to the left. And then if you look on the right hand side, the line of the arm is lined up with the 0 on the side. Okay, so our next word is thermometer. It is a tool that measures temperature. So as the substance that you're measuring gets warmer, the molecules and atoms inside the liquid in the thermometer heat up and expand, and that creates the red liquid moving up to show you what line it's on. So this is also going to have lines on the side that will show you what temperature it is. Now remember, in science, we'll be using the metric or SI system, so we're going to be using degrees Celsius. And here's an example of a thermometer. Okay, our next word is spring scale, which is an instrument that measures Earth's gravitational pull on an object. A spring scale is how you're going to measure either newtons, which we'll talk about in around January, or to measure something's weight. Okay, so something's weight is how much gravity is pulling on it, and so that's what a spring scale measures. This is different from mass. Here's an example of the spring scale. You would hang or somehow attach whatever you're measuring to the hook at the bottom, and it pulls down, and then it will show you either in grams or newtons the weight or the force that is on that object. All right, here's a page of notes. Remember just to make sure that you fill in the red words. So safety tools. Scientists use tools to conduct investigations. A tool is an object that helps you do work. Measurement is the process of using tools to observe an object's properties like mass, volume, and temperature. And remember that mass is the amount of matter in something, volume is how much space it takes up, and temperature is a measurement of the kinetic energy of the atoms in a substance. And we'll talk more about temperature in a future unit. Also on the top right hand corner you can kind of see that they squeezed graduated cylinder onto this page as well. And it is a container used to measure the volume of liquids. So we're going to see how much space those liquids take up. Okay, so here's a page that kind of has a lot of our different tools on it. We have our microscope, which is an instrument that uses a lens to make tiny things look larger. We have aquarium and terrarium. We will not use those this year, but it's good to know the difference. A terrarium has water in it. An aquarium has water in it, and a terrarium does not really have water in it, but it does have soil that is moist. A spring scale measures force in newtons. A test tube has a round bottom and you can keep chemicals in it. You normally store those on a rack since you can't set them on the counter because the bottom is round. So you have to have a rack to set them in. A beaker is a cylinder-shaped glass container used to mix or heat liquids. They also have a pan balance. So in that balance you would set an object on either side and it shows you which one is heavier. A prism is a glass triangular prism that bends light rays. And so you're going to take the light that shines into it and it's going to split it up into the different colors. Below that is our triple beam balance. Notice that triple is spelled incorrectly. It should be T-R-I-P-L-E, beam balance. Thermometer is below that. It measures hot or cold, and we're going to use Celsius, which is also spelled wrong. It should be C-E-L-S-I-U-S. And then in the bottom right-hand corner is a compass, which is going to show you direction.